Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the Everyday Heroes podcast. Today is a solo episode, and we're talking about what happens when therapy doesn't work out, right? We're going to go through the steps. We're going to look at the green flags, the red flags, and really what comes up when, as parents raising autistic children, what that looks like and how that impacts our overall well-being, how that impacts the overall well-being of our children. So let's get into it. Okay. So let's get into the journey, right? You've been handed an autism diagnosis for your child. The pediatrician has said, your child is autistic. Here is a stack of papers. Go off and figure it out. And so what do? Okay, well, we need to get therapy organized. So you are feeling no doubt, a sense of out of control, right? There's the grief, there's the overwhelm, there's the scarcity, the uncertainty. And now all of a sudden you have to find a therapist who you think is going to fit with your child with whatever is going on for your child, right? Maybe they're non-speaking, maybe they're minimally speaking, maybe they're verbal, maybe they have behavioral issues, maybe they have things coming up for them that you are not really sure how to tackle and who to even go to. So you are scanning Facebook pages, you are asking people, you really don't know what to do. And so therefore, you finally find someone, you're like, I think this is the one. Not really sure. I don't really know, right? Because you've never done it before. So you don't really have a point of reference to be able to say, yes, this is meeting the guidelines around what I want it to look like. So or maybe you need to join a wait list, or maybe you walk straight in, right? And so you meet the therapist. She's lovely. She ticks all the boxes. She's warm and she's lovely and she's doing all the things, and you're happy and you're like, whew, you feel this huge amount of relief come off your shoulders, right? You're like, finally, someone else can take the wheel. Someone else can drive for a second while I just take a hot minute and have a coffee. And so what happens is, weeks go by, months go by. Maybe you started the therapy in February at the beginning of school. It's now June, July, and you're like, hang on. I'm not noticing any changes in Bobby. I'm not noticing any changes in Janelle. What is happening? The things that we're working towards, we're not seeing those changes, right? We're not seeing any improvements, even really slight improvements around what's going on. And so you start to question what's going on, what's happening. And then the penny drops that maybe that therapy isn't the right fit. And so then it dawns on you that you have been schlepping your kid to and from this therapy for months on end now. And because you've been sidetracked, because the therapist is so lovely, and because it's warm and inviting, and you just feel like you just need to unload, we're just going to go there. And so the penny drops and you think, oh, this is not working. And the realization that just maybe this therapy isn't what your child needs. And so then you go into this rumination. All that money has gone, all the funding money has gone down the drain. All that time and effort of picking him up from school, getting her in the car, talking about it, getting her ready, whatever it is, and getting her to the therapy. It feels like it's at a loss, and it's a hard decision, and not a decision, it's a hard thing to swallow, right? It's a hard fact to be like, you know what? I thought this was the right therapy, but actually I don't think it is. And so what happens is, a lot of the time, and I've seen this with clients, I've seen it with myself, right? This idea that you have questions in your mind of, did I try hard enough? Should I have tried harder in trying to find a better therapist? Should I have done more? Did this mean that when this therapy didn't work, does that mean that I failed my child? And I want to let you know that is so far from the truth. And I'm really going to break that down. I'm going to get really granular in this episode because I want you to understand that this is so important. So let's just do a little bit of a belief system where a lot of parents will sit. And I know that I sat there as well. So, and I'm going to give it to you in a summary. Good therapist equals good progress. No therapy equals no progress, and no progress means I must be a bad parent. You know, how many times have I sat there and thought to myself, if my angel boy isn't going to therapy, he cannot possibly be improving, right? Just to let you in on a little secret, that's complete lies. Lies. Your child is developing every single day. Every single day. And if you think that a 45-minute session with a therapist is going to somehow take your child from here to all the way over here, I think we need to look at your belief systems, okay? Because it takes so much more work than that 45-minute session for them to actually make that progress that you're looking for. It takes the effort outside of that therapy session to move the needle. It takes work in school or homeschooling to be able to move the needle. So it's not just a one size fits all. And I really want you to understand that this idea, and this is why parents are so desperate to be in therapy, because they think that if your child is not in therapy, you can't possibly be improving. And it is just not true. There is no true at all. I have seen children improve just dealing with life skills, right? Or dealing with regulation, because now they know how to wash their hair, go for a shower, put the washing machine on. They know how to, put the clothes out, fold the clothes, whatever it is. Go to the supermarket to get their favorite food. It is all life skills. Not everything has to be attached to a therapy. And I really want you to hear that, because I think it's so important for parents to understand, is there a place for therapy? Absolutely. I am not saying that, we want to chuck the therapist out with the baby with the bathwater. Not at all, right? But if you're in a position as a parent, and I'm really talking to these parents, if you're in a position where you are on a wait list right now and you are ripping your hair out because you think that you are wasting time and hours and days because you are not seeing a therapist, I want you to hear this really clearly. You're not wasting anything. I want you to become the therapist. Like I said, work on your life skills. Work on baking a cake. Work on taking the child to go for a walk. All of these are playing into your child becoming the best version of themselves, because it's not everything can be taught in a clinic. Not everything can be taught in a way that makes sense to a child when they are sitting opposite a therapist. Sometimes it's learning, like I said, learning how to bake a cake. You're dealing with physics. You're dealing with measurements. You're dealing with maths. You want them to understand that there is more to life than just therapy. And it's not all, we can't throw all of our eggs into a therapy basket. And so sometimes, let's backtrack for a second. Let's say that child is in therapy. You've gotten to the 6-month point. You're like, I'm not really seeing that progress. I'm not really seeing what's going on. I am nervous that we have wasted all of this time and wasted all of this energy. And now I've got to go back and find a new therapist, which I don't even know. And I don't have the energy or the capacity to sit down and sift through all of these therapists to figure out what's going on, let alone wait on a new wait list. Now, I want you to hear this as well. Nothing is lost. You haven't lost time. You haven't lost energy. You haven't lost money. Because you know what? If you're going to start up with a new therapist, it takes time. I've seen therapists for 3 months, 4 months, just work on rapport building. Just work on the point of making that child feel safe. And that right there is a huge component. Okay? We can't expect our children to just walk into this clinic and be like, I'm on, let's go. I'm ready to do OT. I'm ready to do speech. Let's make this work. No, they're scared. They're nervous. They're worried. They're in a new environment. There's new smells. There's new sounds. I'm not sure what's going on. I need some time to just re-regulate what's going on. So nothing is lost, because you know what? You've allowed this child to learn how to regulate in a new space. You've allowed this child to learn how to meet and to develop a relationship with a new person they had no experience with before. That in itself is a huge milestone, because when children go to school, they're meeting new people all the time. So this is giving them a point of reference to say, you know what? I can go into new environments and I can make sure that I build a relationship with these people. I can build a relationship with a new teacher every year because I have done it before. I want you to understand that in sessions, it's so important that, when we take our children, do you know how many times, I can't tell you how many times, when this was well before my coaching years, that I would take my angel boy and I would, he would be screaming. He would be screaming to try and not get into that car so that we could go to therapy. And I just didn't understand why. I'm like, but you love going. What? I didn't compute what was happening. If that's happening for your child, I want you to hear that that is feedback. They don't want to go for whatever reason. Maybe your child is non-speaking, like my angel boy was at the time, and he couldn't tell me that he didn't want to go because for whatever reason. Maybe he was picking up on me. Maybe he was picking up that I was just so sad. And here we were, while everyone else was going to school and kinder and everyone else was going to their activities, we were going to speech therapy and we were going to occupational therapy. And how angry I was and how frustrated I was with the system, that why did this happen? Where was our, person to save the day and make things right? I was so angry. And so maybe he was just picking up on that. But for whatever reason, he didn't want to go. And I needed to understand that pushing harder didn't mean success. Making him go every time, even if he was dysregulated, wasn't success. But I didn't know it at the time. I didn't understand what was going on because I didn't have the experience to be like, hang on, this is not working. Because in my mind, in my honest, down in my soul, I would say to you, like I said to you before, if he wasn't going to therapy, he was not improving and we were stuck on pause. And I was desperate to do anything I could in order to move the needle, to move it forward. And if that meant that he needed to go to speech therapy, and even if the session was a bust, I got him there and we did some stuff for maybe 5-10 minutes. Well, we got him there in the end. But it's this idea that if we don't take them, they are somehow being left behind. And I don't want that for you. I don't want you to think that your child is being left behind because they're not going to therapy. I want to share a story with you that it's something that deeply resonates with me. And it's something that I haven't spoken about on the podcast before. And it is a therapy that we took my angel boy to. I reckon we probably went for a year, maybe a year and a half. And in this particular therapy, parents were encouraged to stay in the waiting room while the child was taken into another space to do the therapy. And at first I was kind of like, oh, that's a bit weird. But you know what? I really enjoy being by myself and just having some downtime, right? Just to like mindlessly scroll on Instagram, to be able to check out some, recipes on Facebook, to just read a book or just have a phone call with a girlfriend or just having downtime. And it was all plodding away really nicely, right? It's all going really well until it wasn't. Until I heard my angel boy crying hysterically and I couldn't see what was going on. And something in my gut was like, nope, we're not doing that. My son doesn't cry just because. And I can't see, and you're telling me that I can't come in and see, I'm not really comfortable. And we zip-lined out of there real quick. And so I say this to you because there are red flags and there are green flags when it comes to therapy. And there are things where I need you to be able to understand. And this is where it comes into that intuition part. Very hard to tap into your intuition if you are so stressed out that your nervous system is so shot that you can't tap in and see what's happening. You don't have access to intuition if you are in massive, huge amounts of fight or flight. It doesn't work, right? It doesn't actually move the needle. And you won't be able to figure out what's right and what's wrong because you're so disconnected from your body to your head. So I want you to be like, this is why coaching is so, so important. It gets you out of here and back into your body, back into feeling what feels good, what feels right, why it's important. And so at that point, I was probably just coming out of that nervous system dysregulation. Was I still there? Yeah, I was still there, but I had the nuance to be able to go, that is an absolute no-go, and I don't like that at all, and we are done. And I don't care how much you tell me that, he just didn't like the exercise. Yeah, if I can't see what you're doing, then that's going to make me feel really uncomfortable. And so I want you to walk in with that discernment when you go and see a therapist. I want you to be able to walk into that therapy session and size that person up really quickly to know if they are going to be a good fit for your child. Now, Chantal might be an amazing person. She's like out when she's on her own and she's not working. She's like the best person ever, and she's great. And she like loves to be out with her friends and drinking and having a great time. But when she's working, she might not be the best fit for Bobby, right? She might not be the best fit for Jake. And so we need to make sure that we're looking at what is going to work. And so that leads me into, how do you qualify if the therapist is the right therapist for your child? And I really want you to look at the first thing. And this is a really big thing. And I would actually encourage you to write these things down before you even step foot into that therapy clinic. And those things are, what is the problem that you're trying to resolve, right? What is the challenge that you're trying to clear? Because if you don't even know, like saying speech, oh, well, he's just got to go to speech therapy. Darling, that is so broad. That's like me, like, manifesting is a huge thing right now. That's like, I'm going to manifest $4 billion. Well, that's lovely. Great. Love that for you. How are you doing that? How are you manifesting $4 billion, right? So I need you to get really granular. Write it down. What is the issue? What's the challenge that you're looking at? And how are you hoping to address that? Now, I'm not saying you need to be a therapist for this. I'm not saying that you need to have a degree in occupational therapy in order to write down what you know in your heart of hearts needs to move for your son, needs to move for your daughter. What do you want them to achieve by the end of the therapy session? Let's say, hypothetically, you are a year in. Where do you want your child to be? What do you want them to have words? Do you want them to have sentences? Do you want them to have eye contact is a bit of a neither here nor there. So, whatever, leave that to the side. Do you want them to be able to write, a really beautiful sentence with real, handwriting that maybe doesn't look like a preppy has written it, considering that they're in grade 4, right? Do you want their spelling to be better? Do you want them to be able to connect with their friends? Do you want them to be able to not fall over all of the time? Like, what is the goal? What is the granular goal? And I encourage you to really, really think about it. Write it down, walk away, come back, add to it, change it, subtract it, talk about it with your partner, with your husband, with your wife. Think about what is the thing that's going to make that challenge to be a challenge no more. What is it that you're going to look at and go, yes, this is the thing? And I'm not saying to you, I want you to go to like level 10, right? I want this speech therapist to turn my child into Einstein. No, it's just unrealistic and just stupid, if I'm being really honest. I need you to be really realistic with where you're looking at getting these challenges. Where do you want to be? Right? If you told me that you want your child to go from completely non-speaking to, full speaking in full sentences in 6 months, I'd be like, Betty, I think we need to have a bit of a chat, because I don't necessarily know that we're going to get there. Maybe we will. And you know what, Betty, I want to know what your secret is, because I'd love to like bottle it up and share it with everybody else in the autism community, but just don't think it's going to work like that. So be granular with what you're looking at achieving. And then once you've got that figured out, share those details with your speech therapist so they're on the same page. Share it with the occupational therapist, whoever the person that you're going to for the therapy. Maybe it is that you are going to Kids in Motion, which, by the way, I love, to get your child to do rock climbing to the top of the wall. But maybe he's only going to like a quarter of the way. Maybe that you think that by the end of the term, That is the goal that we're going to try and aim for. And by sharing that information, you can really see which way you're going to go, right? You are both going to be on the same page. You're both going to be working towards the same goal, and we can get there. But if you're going to hold on to those goals and you're going to be like, yeah, well, Chantel's like, I've got these goals and she's not meeting these goals. Like, what the hell? I want you to pause for a second. Have you shared those goals? We talk about relationships a lot in this podcast and in this space. You have to be open. You have to be able to share those things with your husband, your partner, your wife, your therapist, so that they're on the same page. So getting really granular is so important. The other thing I want to say to you is, why do you want to achieve that goal? Like, honest. Like, let's get really deep here. Why do you want to achieve the goal? Do you want to achieve it so that Bobby can actually do it? Or do you want to achieve it because you want to be like everybody else? Do you want to achieve it because you want to keep up with the Jones and you want to be perceived as normal, whatever that even means? Do you want to be that person that is like everybody else? And I say that to you because your ego will die 1,000 deaths when you are raising an autistic child. Your ego, that thing that you think about, right? Your ego essentially is this idea of how you see yourself, your belief system, your like what you are showing, how you're showing up to the world, how you want people to see you. If your ego is getting in the way of stopping your child achieving what they need to achieve, or stopping you to achieve what you want to achieve, it's really difficult. It's going to make things so much harder. So be really clear as to why you want this to go away, or why you want this challenge to subside, to ease, to be let go. It's so important that we can address what's coming up for us as well as for our children. The idea of comparisons comes up so many times when you are raising an autistic child. And sometimes we want that goal to happen because, you know what? My best friend's girlfriend, sister's, whatever, daughter is, the spelling champion in grade 3. And I want Bobby to be there too. Cool. I love that for you. I don't know whether Bobby is going to be able to do that spelling, but let's peel it all the way back. And it's so hard because therapists deal with this on a daily basis, trying to manage the ego of mum and dad to what's realistic for the child. So get granular. You know what? And I would even encourage you, like, if you're feeling really like, I don't know why I want this challenge to go away, I just want it to go away, plug it into ChatGPT. Plug it in and be like, listen, my kid's autistic. I'm looking at going to a speech therapist. What are some of the things that they can achieve? And where can I go? What can I do? How can this help my son, my daughter? What will move the needle? And it'll spit out a whole bunch of things. Will it be right? Will it be wrong? It doesn't really matter, because it's giving you a seedling as to where you can go next. It's basically saying to you, here's a whole bunch of different things. I want you to brainstorm further on this and see what comes up for you. So use that to your disposal to see what's coming up. And that's only if you feel like you're not really sure why you want this challenge to go away. The next thing is, and this is a big one, emotional safety. And emotional safety is super important for your child. You are in a situation where you are taking this child into a new environment, like I mentioned, new smells, new sounds, a new person. Maybe they're wearing really strong perfume. Maybe you can smell the coffee on their breath. Maybe they smoke cigarettes. Maybe there's all these different things that they're trying to get accustomed to. Maybe they talk really fast. Maybe they talk really slow. But you want to be able to go, okay, does my child feel safe going here? If they don't feel safe, you're literally barking up the wrong tree. Like, it's a fruitless experience, and it will not garner anything. That will come first. If your child, and we've seen this time and time again, your child will only learn unless they will only learn unless they feel safe. If they're feeling safe, yes, they will learn. But if they are feeling like they are in huge amounts of fight or flight, I can tell you right now, not even the best of us will be able to learn. If you are feeling threatened, if you are feeling anxious, if you are feeling like someone is going to call you out or do something and you're not comfortable with that, there's no way that your brain is going to learn. And that's in any setting, whether it's in school setting or whether that's in a therapy setting. So we want the child to first and foremost to feel safe. Do they want to go? Is there resistance from them going? Do they shut down before a session or even after a session? Are they feeling like, and it's hard. It's so much harder to try and ascertain where you're going if your child is non-speaking. How do you know then what's working or what's not working? Then you look at the non-verbal behaviors, the non-verbal cues, right? What is their body language doing, right? What is their vocal stimming doing? What is the pitch? Maybe they're going to the toilet a lot more. Maybe there's like nerves. Maybe they're doing more poos in their nappy. Maybe there are, there's more meltdowns. Maybe there's that very much that pushing away. I don't want to come with you. So all of these things are feedback as to, does the child feel safe? And I really want you to take that into account if you are in a situation where you're trying a new therapist, or if you've been in therapy and now all of a sudden Bobby is doing exactly that. And you're not sure why the change is. Maybe Bobby's burnt out, but he can't tell you what burnt out is because he doesn't have the language to be able to tell you that. Or maybe he just feels completely overwhelmed and exhausted and he just needs some time out. This is all relevant. And therapy burnout is a real thing. And I really want parents to understand that. I've seen clients come in and be like, oh, my child is doing blah, 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 blah. They've literally got therapy on every single day. And the kid is falling asleep at 7:00 at night. And you're like, no, that is not, you are literally doing the exact opposite of what you want them to do. They're not retaining any of the information because they're so exhausted. So do what works and see what's working for you. And the last one is you've got to reframe. And when I say you've got to reframe, not every therapy is going to be right for every single child. Not even evidence-based therapies are going to be right for every single child. And I want you to take that with a grain of salt because it's so important. There are a bazillion therapies out there right now for autistic kids. Not every single one of them is going to be the right fit. Not every single therapist is going to be the right fit for your autistic child either. So just because one didn't work doesn't mean that there's like 999 million out there that won't work. So really looking at it from, great, I now know what doesn't work. Let's lean towards what does work. And that's a really important clue and a really beautiful reframe for parents who are thinking in that closed mindset of, I don't think this is working and what a waste, versus now I know the data and I know what's working and I can move forward. So let's go through, I mentioned before about the red flags and the green flags, and I was just doing some journaling, so I'm just going to read them out. So parents excluded, right? This is a big one. If you feel excluded at therapy and you're not taking into account or you're not seeing what's happening, that could be a really big red flag for you. That idea when therapists are like, trust the process. Okay. All right. Well, we'll take that with a grain of salt, Janet, but we'll just see how we go, right? So be aware of what their language is and what's coming up. That you find that there's no transparency, that they're very vague and they're not giving you a lot of information, or they're like, oh, you know what? Jake did really well this session. I know he's really good and yada, yada, and don't really go into the finer, the nitty gritty around how the session went. That there are no measurable goals. And this is a big one. If you can't measure a goal, how do you know that it's not improving or that it is? How are we figuring it out? It's very much like exercise, right? Well, we know that if you're working out 4 days a week, you're probably going to see some movement, but it might not happen straight away, but eventually you'll see that, right? But if you're eating McDonald's every day, well, maybe that weight loss is probably not going to happen. So making sure that you have established some really well thought out goals so that you can move forward. if you find that your therapist discourages questioning or sort of like changes the subject or makes you feel like you can't ask questions, that is a massive red flag. And I would say absolutely not. Get your butt out of there and we are done. Let me be clear. As parents, we are paying your salary, right? So we can ask whatever question we want to ask. And I need you, obviously within reason. You're not going to be like abusing the therapist, no. But we want to be in a situation where if we're asking questions, we want answers, right? And so if you're going to have someone make you feel that you're inferior, that you don't matter, that their opinion is so superior to you, and that you shouldn't be questioning what's coming up. No, that's a big red flag. And that parents' concerns are dismissed, right? That you don't really know what you're talking about, and I'm the therapist here, I'm the expert, and you should just listen to what I say. Get on out there. Green flags are that the therapist is curious, that they're flexible, that they've got open communication, that they want to hear from you. They want to hear what's working at home and what's not working at home. They want to hear what your thoughts are as a parent. Where are you at? What are you finding good? What are you finding bad? How can we best support you in the process of supporting your child? Making those child-centered adjustments. What does that look like? And then obviously having really positive communication, positive words, neuroaffirming, if that is something that you are looking for. And also share decision-making. Like, don't be afraid that if the therapist says to you, well, you know what? We're going to put this plan in place and I want you to be hitting these goals. We're going to do these exercises 5 days a week. And you're going to turn around and say, Janet, with all due respect, 5 days is going to be impossible. I'm going to work on 2 days, right? That's going to be my goal for right now. We're just going to work on 2 days a week, and then we can gradually move up to 5. The response should be a resounding yes, that sounds wonderful, as opposed to, if you're not doing 5, then, I think you need to leave. We don't want that sort of feedback. So it's making sure that you know what is what you have capacity for, what your child has capacity for, and what you can achieve. One of the things I want to say, and I think I said it to you before, no progress doesn't mean failure, right? That is a load of garbage. I know for a fact, and I saw it with my own eyes with my angel boy, that after that first year of diagnosis, I was not coping. Like, I was in a world of pain that it was not working. And I can tell you right now, and therapists have told me, he was literally just plateauing. We were not moving. We were just staying the same, staying the even keel. We're not going up, we're not going down, that's it. And I think it's important to share that that's not a bad thing. It's not a bad thing to just be like this. I think we need to reframe the idea that therapy means, oh, we're always going up. And I think that leads to that idea around therapy being so important, because they've tied that idea, that progress, to the child going and that exponential growth going up, versus it going like this and you thinking, well, this is not working. Because there could be a number of reasons, right? There could be a number of reasons of why therapy isn't working. And I actually just did a post about it, I think it was yesterday, around, it could be timing. It could be that your child isn't mature enough at that specific point. It could be that so many external forces. It could be that, your child is just physically not ready. It could be that there's so much overwhelm, that they're too much in their own fight or flight, that they can't see what's happening. So it has to be taken into account. And I think that this is really important for why parents need to recognize that. I think also let's always make sure that regulation is the goal. And that's a big one, because parents they are exhausted from co-regulating. And the reason they're exhausted from co-regulating is because they're not doing enough regulating themselves. They're so busy over here trying to regulate their child, but when Bobby becomes back to regulation, mum over here is like, I am dying, and my version of regulation is either to go to the drink, or I'm going to go and scroll, or I'm going to buy clothes, or I'm going to do whatever I'm going to do to self-regulate. And that is the worst thing that we can do to self-regulate. We want to make sure that we're regulating in here, we're regulating in here, and that's what we can look at. But society has taught us that it's 5 o'clock somewhere, so a glass of wine is going to be just perfect as a way to like numb out and not have to deal with anything. And that becomes our regulation tool. So going back to comparisons, I think that this is a big one. And it's something worth revisiting, because we as parents, we do it all the time. We do it all the time because that is part of our parent existence. And a part of our parent experience is that because we do it with ourselves, right? If you think about it, you've just given birth to your baby. That woman over there, she's just given birth and she's a size 6 in her size 6 jeans. And here I am over in my size 12 to 14 jeans. And like, what's going on? I need to start dieting. I need to start eating. I need to start walking, yada, yada. You tell yourself this story, which is preposterous. You've just given birth to a baby. Why do we put these pressures on ourselves? But we do the same things with our children. Bobby isn't doing there. He's not up there with the other kids. He's not playing with the other kids. He's not spelling the way the other kids. He's not talking. We put all these comparisons on our children, and that stops us from being able to show up for them. It really does. It stops us, because then we get angry and we get resentful and we get PO'd and we think, why is this happening? And then victim mentality comes in and you're like, yep, I'm off. I'm done. I don't want to do this anymore. I'm out. This parenting gig is just too hard and I didn't sign up for this, so I'm out. And so this is what we see for parents so much of the time. They're not coping because the story that they told themselves before they gave birth to that child did not match the experience that they had been delivered. And that is a big one to swallow. That is a big one to try and manage and deal with and live with every single day, that your thought was very different to how life is showing up for you right now. And if I could turn around to you and say, but love, I know parents who have children who are physically disabled, have an intellectual disability, cannot talk, cannot walk, cannot eat, are eating through a feeding tube, and are one of the happiest people that are on this earth. It's how we can reframe it. It's how we look at it. What are we telling ourselves? What are we telling ourselves that autism means for us and our family? Because I can tell you right now, there have been parents that I have spoken to that look at autism as a death sentence. And I've spoken to other parents who have said to them, or have said to me rather, that autism has been the thing that sets their child apart, that makes their child the person that they are. That if you took the autism out of them, they wouldn't be who they are right now. They wouldn't be as creative. They wouldn't be as funny. They wouldn't be as adventurous or think outside the square. I want you to make sure that we're looking at that time and time again, because Lord knows that we need to be able to look at autism in a positive light. Because if you are going to look at it in a negative light and that victim mentality comes in, it is only going to come back to haunt you time and time again. And this leads me into my next point is, as parents, we can really look at autism in a closed mindset, and we can look at therapy in a closed mindset or an open mindset. And the closed mindset is, why didn't the therapy work? You know, what a waste of money, what a waste of time, what a waste of effort. Why do I bother? I take him, he doesn't even do anything. He just sits there, or he like acts out. You know, nothing is helping. This is that victim mentality, that closed mindset that we're holding on to so tightly that that's it, we're done. Which the old, you know, like I said, we're going to throw the baby out with the bathwater. That's it. All therapists, they're all crap and we don't know what we're doing and blah, blah, blah. But what if I said to you, actually, what did you learn? Because I can tell you right now, you would have learned something. What did you learn in that time that you were taking your child to therapy? What did you learn about yourself? And what did you learn about your child? What didn't work? What did work? Do you think that your child is ready for the next step? Do we need to revisit what's going on? Maybe that time period, he was in that growth, he was growing, right? He was maturing in that 6 months. And now that therapist was actually bridging the gap for that time so that he could move into that next stage. Was it the right fit? What can I take forward? Like what part of did that therapist do things really, really well that I can share with the next therapist? Right? What was something that they did really well that worked for my child that I could be like, actually, to the new therapist, this is feedback as to what's going on. Now, I want to preface this as well. Every therapy and every therapist has a timeline. They have it's not for infinity. It's not forever. No therapy is, right? But you will find eventually you will come to an end point with your therapist and with that therapy. And you'll be like, loved our time. I think it's getting a bit stale. I think the therapist needs new blood. And I think that the child needs a different person to be able to mentor them, to be able to teach them. And this doesn't mean, again, that was a waste of time. It means that they have used up their space and that time. This is why we find that in schools, they'll constantly change the teachers, right? It's not because they want to be like, oh, you know what, let's just like shake things up, because they're changing them because it's so important that they get a different teacher, because that teacher has a different way of teaching that child. Everyone has a different method. Everyone has a different way. And so it's really important to see that if you've used up that time, you need to move on. It's important to see that you've come to the end and we're going to move on, because it's no longer fitting our child, right? It's no longer gaining the well sought after solutions that you were looking for. And no therapist is going to be like, well, you shouldn't be leaving. Of course. We're going to be like, great, no worries. No doubt they've got a wait list as long as there are for other people to come in. And it's important for you to be like, great, we're going to step away. So keep that under your hat. Next time you feel like something it'll come up. And I know for parents, and I've seen it with mums, you push that all the way down. Nope, I don't want to deal with that. I don't want to deal with having to find another therapist. So we are just going to stay here. You just go away. I don't want to hear that thought anymore. And I want you to know that thought is coming up because it's telling you it's time. Let's move on. Let's change therapists. We need to move into a different space. So next time that thought comes up, really listen to it and listen to what it's trying to tell you. But you know what? I want to sum up by saying that, Lord, there are so many therapies and so many therapies and so many therapists out there supporting and helping autistic children every single day. And it's your job as the parent at the helm to be able to navigate the ship, to go forward, to know which therapy is going to be the right therapy. Are you going to be able to walk into a therapist and go, ta-da, yes, this is going to be the therapy that's going to help my child? No, you're not. You're going to test and you're going to measure. You're going to walk in, you're going to try and assess whether this is the right therapy for your child. You're going to ask all the questions. You're going to do a trial run with them and see if this is going to be a good fit. And then you're going to be like, okay, let's go. And then you're going to monitor the progress over the coming weeks and months to see if you are actually hitting the needle, if those challenges are subsiding, even the smallest bit, if that rapport is getting built better, if they're wanting to go, you're looking at these targets to see if this is moving the needle. So I really hope that this episode was helpful. I know it was a lot to digest. I want you to know that obviously in Melbourne, we are in the last week of term 2. So the podcast will be taking a break for the next 2 weeks because the kids are in school holidays, and it gives me a well-deserved break as well. We will be back on, I don't know, actually I need to check this on the calendar, but I believe it is, because we go back the 13th. So we will be back on the 15th of July. That will be our next episode. And if you haven't already, and if you think that this episode was amazing, please share it with a friend. Please share it with someone that you think would be helpful if they're going through a hard time and they're not sure which way, or they're grieving the thought that they've just wasted 6 months of time over a therapy and they're feeling really discouraged. Share this episode with them. And if you haven't already, please join the Scene Collective waitlist, where we are doing some magical things. Some of the guest speakers that you've seen in the podcast are coming in to teach you something specific for a session. For a 45-minute session, you get to hear these people one-to-one. You get to hear them what they're talking about, and you get to ask them questions. This is absolutely unheard of in anywhere. You go into any situation where you are going to see a speechy or an OT or whatever, you are charging for that time. This membership is less than $1 a day. And I think it's so important. And it's something I wish I had back when my angel boy was first diagnosed, because I could have got so much better information by being able to hear firsthand from these experts what was going to move the needle and what those challenges look like, and then being able to ask the questions at the end. So there are so many more benefits. Jump on the website. I will put the website in the show notes, and you can obviously access the link for the waitlist on my bio in Instagram, and it is in the notes for Facebook and the Facebook group. So please join me, because it's going to be amazing. And I will talk to you soon. I hope you have the most amazing week, and I hope that school holidays treat you kindly. I'll talk to you soon. Okay, bye.